Hi friends, and welcome to another video on our YouTube channel. My name is Artemakis Artemiou, founder of SQL NetHub, and in this video we're going to talk about temporary tables in SQL Server and what is the difference between hash and double hash when creating temporary tables. For more information about our community activities, you can visit sqlnethub.com. And also do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, SQL NetHub TV, in order to stay up to date with our latest videos on different interesting technology topics. So what will you learn in this video? First, we are going to talk about what are temporary tables in SQL Server. Then we are going to talk about local temporary tables, as well as about global temporary tables. Then we will jump into a live demonstration where we are going to see these two types of temporary tables in SQL Server in action. So, what are temporary tables in SQL Server? Well, temporary tables are a special type of database tables. These tables, once created, they exist temporarily, as the name implies. Now, these tables are automatically dropped by the database engine under certain conditions. We are going to talk about these conditions in the subsequent slides. Moreover, note that temporary tables in SQL Server are particularly useful when developing large T-SQL scripts and you need to break the logic into smaller chunks. So, for example, if you want to store temporary data somewhere in order to further process it, you can use temporary tables. Now let's talk about local temporary tables. Local temporary tables are defined by using the single hash sign. That means that these temporary tables are available only for the session in which they were created. So, for example, you connect to SQL Server via Management Studio, you create a temporary table using the single hash sign. After you close the query window, this temporary table will be automatically dropped by the SQL Server database engine. So yes, indeed, after the session ends, the temporary table is automatically dropped by the database engine. This is a syntax example of a local temporary table. So you can see you use the T-SQL statement create table, and then along with the name of the table, you also add a single hash sign. Then you declare your table as you do with other normal tables in SQL Server. So the only difference here from when defining a normal table in SQL Server is the use of the single hash sign. And that means that you are creating a local temporary table. Now let's talk about global temporary tables. Global temporary tables are defined by using a double hash sign. That means that these temporary tables are available to all sessions in SQL Server, and that means they are visible to all users, but after the session in which the temporary table was created ends and all references to this table are closed, then the specific temporary table is automatically dropped by the SQL Server database engine. This is a syntax example of a global temporary table. So again, you use the create table T-SQL statement, you define the table as you define other normal tables in SQL Server, with the only difference this time that prior to the name of the table, you also add the double hash sign. Great. Now let's jump into a live demonstration where we're going to see these two types of temporary tables in action. So I'm back to our demo environment where I'm going to create a local temporary table. So I'm connected to a SQL Server 2018 Express instance and I'm opening a new query window. Great. So let's create a temporary table. So this is the command, create table. Then I'm using single hash sign. Let's name it local temp table. And let's include an ID column which is of the type integer. I made this column a primary key. And let's run execute in order to create our local temporary table. So you can see that the temporary table was successfully created, and now we can insert some data. OK. And let's run a select statement. Great. So you can see that you can now use the temporary table within this session. Now let's try to open a new query window, that is opening a new session to our SQL Server database engine, and try to reference this local temporary table. You will see that this will not be possible. So let's run a select statement against our local temporary table, and you can see that we get the error message invalid object name local temp table. And we get this message because our temporary table is just local. And that means that the temporary table lives only within this session. Now, if we want to be able to use temporary tables in many sessions, we can use the second variation of temporary tables in SQL Server, that is global temporary tables. So we can create a global temporary table by adding a double hash sign to the table name. Let's name it global temp table, again with an ID column which is of the type integer and it is a primary key. Let's insert some sample data in our global temporary table this time. And let's run a select statement. So you can see that yes, our global temporary table is accessible. However, this is in the current session. Let's try to open another session in SQL Server and try to use this table. So a new query window, and in this new session I'm referencing the global temporary table. So let's try to run a select statement and click execute. And you can see that yes, it is possible to access our global temporary table. Let's open another session. Try again to run the select statement against our global temporary table, and you can see that yes, it is accessible. So we have just witnessed in action the actual difference between local temporary tables and global temporary tables. So just to recap, local temporary tables can be only used within the session into which they were created in, and global temporary tables can be used within the session into which they were created in, as well as in other sessions. Great. Now let's switch back to the lecture. If you want to stay up to date with our latest videos, do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We regularly upload educational videos on different interesting technology topics such as SQL Server development, administration and tuning, Azure SQL and other cloud computing topics, programming and .NET, entity framework, and much more. Thank you very much for watching this video.